everyone, Shauna Brindley here with another interview of Changing the Perspective. Today you're going to meet my son, Ethan. He is here to discuss growing up with divorced parents. We've discussed several things he would potentially want to interview about, and this is the first one he wanted to talk about, so I'm happy to have him join us today for the interview. Just remember, if you like the videos that we posted so far, or if you're interested in the subject that we're going to talk to today, please go ahead and subscribe right below this video to YouTube so that we can continue making amazing videos and get it to you very quickly every week on Friday, if possible. And you will be notified if you subscribe to the page. So we really want you to do that. Also, join us on our social media pages, our Facebook and our Instagram, both under Changing the Perspective. If you follow both of those, we do some behind the scenes stuff. We do some topic discussions. We kind of give you a variety of kind of behind the scenes look at what we're doing on this journey we are in. Really, the whole goal is to just bring some hope, inspiration, and positivity to the world we're living in. And we have to do that by just continuing to bring content and hope that you all enjoy it along the way. So, everyone, here is my son, Ethan. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You nervous?
Not really.
Oh, okay. So tell us, I guess, why you decided this was a good subject to talk about.
Obviously, you and Dad are divorced, and I was fortunate enough that it happened at such a young age, because instead of it happening now, or even while I was in like middle school, high school, I didn't have to deal with that big change in my life. I just kind of grew up through it, and so I'm very fortunate for that. But at the same time, like, I went through life without like traditional Christmases and Thanksgivings and stuff like that, because I was splitting different years, like bouncing between your house and Dad's house. And sometimes maybe something happened where I was with you 2 years in a row for something, or Dad 2 years in a row. And so it was just kind of, it was difficult in that way. And then like having to bounce between houses and having stuff at each house that I wanted, doing things at different houses is kind of hard, because I had to communicate. If I had something going on a Friday at Dad's house that was supposed to be your Friday, it was kind of difficult in that way. But it was pretty fortunate you and Dad got along really, really well. Obviously there's differences there, and there's reasons why you got divorced, but I was very fortunate for that. And so I mean that helps a lot. But like I said, like growing up, it was just hard, because I had times where I was with Nana and Papa a lot, and just because we'd be doing stuff. And so I didn't really see Dad as much in a week that was his, because we had so much stuff planned. And maybe it's vice versa. If I was going to Tennessee or whatever, I was with Dad for 2 weeks and we'd have to switch off. So it kind of got hard, because, I was 3 or 4 at the time you guys got divorced. As I'm growing up, like, I wanted to see you guys a lot more. And obviously now it's a lot different, because I can drive. So it's easy, like, all right, I want to go see Mom, like, and I'm at Dad's, I'll just go to Mom's house. Or if I'm at your house, I just go to Dad's, I see them. And so that was definitely, it made it easier as I got older, but it was definitely difficult growing up when I didn't have the power to go wherever I wanted. And then obviously, like, people move on, and I think that big change in my life affected me more than I realized when I noticed I was very against change. And obviously you were with Matt, and like, we don't like to talk about Matt, but he was a big part of my life. I mean, you were with him for 11 years or so, and so I can't just not leave him out, because, I mean, we lived with him for 3 or 4 years, and so that's a little chunk of my life so far. And I mean, I'm very grateful for him letting us in, because I don't think we would be here without him in that aspect, because we were in, I wouldn't say a shady part of Springfield, but we weren't necessarily living in the greatest part of Springfield. And we were fortunate that we were living in a house that obviously Nana and Papa, or your parents, owned. So they rented it out to us. And so that was very fortunate for that. But then things happen, and I mean, a lot of things happen in that neighborhood that probably were not the best. But so it was very nice to get out of that area. And then I moved to Republic, and that was kind of a big change, because I was out of the Springfield School District. I was at Republic, and because Dad lived there, so it was easy. I could go there, and we moved to Battlefield, so the drive from there was a lot easier to get down there. And then going into 8th grade year, I remember that sit-down conversation with everybody where we were talking about moving to Willard. And that was another big change in my life that I was nervous about, but I think that was the first time I had change in my life that I was actually excited about, because it was a new start. I wasn't happy with the sports scene at Republic, and that's why I was wanting to move a lot, is because I was trying to be with friends and my travel ball buddies playing baseball growing up, and obviously that worked out for the best, and for me and for everyone. And so I think that was the first time like change was really okay in my life, and like we were Matt still, and so it's different now that we're not, because he was a big role in that, but at the same time not necessarily a big role, because ultimately the decision was between you and Dad. But he was still there for the discussion of, am I going to move from Republic to Willard? And so I think that was definitely, him being around did make a lot of impacts on our life. I mean, when our house got hit by that truck, which is a whole nother story to tell on its own, it was a very good thing that he let us in like that. I mean, but going back, like growing up in the Springfield area, obviously, like we were young. Dad is in the Jasmine house by himself at this point. He wanted to keep something the same in my life. And talking to him about that, he said he felt like he needed to keep the house because so much was happening. It was only best if there was just a constant. And the constant was definitely that house, because that's where I didn't remember moving from Springfield with you guys to Republic, but my first memories are at that house. And so it was very good that I think he did that. And we were at Ferguson. I made some good friends there. But I also remember the hard times. I remember like one of my first like memories I had is you telling me like, hey, we can't get certain things for a little while. And obviously like I didn't understand that truly at the time. But I remember going to Walmart, and like I was very fortunate. You guys used to get me what I wanted for the most part. Obviously I had things. You told me no, whatever. But I think the first time is when I asked for a toy and you said, hey, we can't get that right now. And so I was like, okay, obviously I remember just thinking, okay, Mom said, yeah, we're not gonna be able to get some things for now. And I'm pretty sure, as far as I know, maybe Nana and Papa had knocked rent down to help for a couple months. And I could be wrong, but like it was just a hard time. I think it's when you were moving into Matrix. That time you're starting your own business, so you weren't necessarily pulling in just money because you're having to do a new startup and everything. And so I think that kind of affected me a little bit, just having that little bit of a hardship, but also going through it with you, because it was like, okay, like we're gonna get through this. Obviously I was too young to do anything about it, but it was the fact that you put me in front of everything, making sure like we had what we needed. We were still going, like you put food on the table. You made sure like we were able to pay rent, even if we got some help. Obviously help is nice, and like there's nothing you could do to repay your parents for letting us stay there and really helping us out. And I'm thankful every day for them. And so it's very nice that they helped us out when we needed it the most, because the ultimate goal is to make sure that I just had what I needed. And it's very good that Dad had that same mindset, because not only did that big change of you guys being divorced affect me in that way, it affected you guys, because instead of having the two incomes to support me, it turned into one income at each side. And so the fact that you guys were able to do that just really helped a lot. And as I'm getting older, like we go through times like that. We moved to Matt's. Things happen there when I'm not going to get into. We are looking for a house. I'm in the Willow District now, and I remember, I mean, when things went down with Matt, you were staying in Nana Papa's house for months, and I was with Dad for almost 9 months. Like, I had a legitimate time where I didn't see you for a long time. Like, obviously, like I still saw you. We went to dinner. We did things. So it's not like you were vacant, but like I didn't just stay at your house. Like I was with Dad for 9 months straight, and I don't think about it as much because it just felt it felt natural. Like it didn't feel different. But it was at the same time, like where we're at now in the house that we have right now, like it's weird to think like before then I didn't see you for that long, and to go house hunting with you, and like obviously I didn't go to a lot of the houses. I remember a house in Springfield. I straight up told you no because I wasn't making the drive to school every day, but it would have benefited you the most for work. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at some other Springfield houses that was kind of in the middle, but then you ultimately made the sacrifice to move to Willard, which helped me the most, but hurt you the most for the drive, which obviously now is not a big deal. And right. I'm at a house for college, so if you move like to benefit you, like you can start looking at that changing your life now. But it was the fact that you made the sacrifice to move all the way to Willard for me. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest thing. And so I think that was a very nice time in my life, knowing like, okay, I'm going to be back at my mom's house. I get to see mom more. And it was very cool. Like, obviously moving in sucked, but like the first Christmas that we had here, we had and stuff. And like, I remember we were moving in and we're doing things, and all of a sudden then I'm probably like, hey, we have a gift for you. And I go out there and they got me a really nice TV for the game room. Mm-hmm. And so like, it was just, those kinds of memories are just so cool to have, knowing everything that we went through. And obviously people have it harder than we did, mm-hmm. but we still had those hardships. And so I think that's very like fortunate for us. And I'm glad that we had those memories, because I think it made our bond stronger. It made, it just made life a little more, it made it easier for us now.
Yeah.
And then obviously like you, like growing up with divorced parents, there's change that happened on our own, but at the same time, like Dad was single for a while, but then he found Paige.
Right.
And then that was a huge change in my life. He moved on. You were with Matt, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was just, we didn't know necessarily. So like, it was really just me and you a lot of the time for them.
Yeah.
But Dad had found someone. And so that was new. And I don't think I've told you this, but I remember the conversation driving back from Springfield to Republic of Dad telling me Paige was moving in. And he asked me if I had to have 3 people move in, who would it be? And I said like Taylor Swift and Megan Fox. And I said Paige. And then he asked me 2, and I said like Megan Fox and Paige or something like that. Then he asked me 1, and I said, I didn't say Paige. But then he was like, well, actually Paige is moving in. And I think at that moment I was like, oh, cool. But then things settled in and I was like, oh God, what is happening? And I remember it was rocky. It wasn't like bad, but I was a little rocky with it for a few months.
I got a phone call from you during that.
Yeah.
Mom, Paige is moving in. I don't want her to move in because she's not, I think I said, well, she's going to college here. No, she's moving into Dad's room. And you like couldn't handle that she wasn't moving into the guest room and being just a roommate, that she was moving into Dad's room.
Yeah.
And I think we talked for multiple days back to back trying to like settle your emotions around it.
it was a big thing, because it was just Dad and I, like,
yeah.
I mean, it was always just Dad and I. I had my little Lego table set up on the beginning of the kitchen. He had his recliner just right in front of me. That's where we ate dinner every night. We watched TV. I remember sitting on the armchair of his recliner next to him, just hanging out, watching TV. I remember multiple nights falling asleep in our little other chair with the ottoman. And I would wake up in my bed like it was just him and I. And so I think the fact that someone else was introduced, obviously Paige was there when I was born. Like,
right.
She's been a part of my life since day one.
You called her Aunt Paige from the second you could talk.
Which is really weird. But because of Chad and Grandma Lannis and all them. But now someone's getting introduced into a household that it's just me and Dad. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just Dad and I. It's just me and Dad. Like, we're just hanging out. We're having the best times of our lives. Little did I know the struggle that was going on in the background for Dad at some points. And so, like, obviously there was times where it was hard, but he never let me know because he didn't want me to think anything. And obviously, like, you did, but that's because you had to. And there's no difference there because we both had the hardships. But I think Dad's big thing was I don't want him to think anything different. And Dad, remember, Dad said his favorite memory of the house is buying me my first bed set and painting my room a different color. And so it was definitely cool, like, hearing these stories of when it was just him and I, all these things he's grateful for, and knowing, like, those are memories, like, maybe I don't remember 100%, but the fact that he has them makes them a lot more special.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Knowing, like, he didn't have his legitimate father figure around, I think really, like, made him want to be that kind of dad. Is like, okay, I want to be the best dad that I can, and I'm really grateful for that every day.
Yeah. Well, when we got divorced, we had a conversation of either you're in or you're out, because I didn't want a wishy-washy dad for you. And he said, I'm in. Yeah. I'm in all the way. And so we set that precedent pretty early that
and I think
that's how it was going to be.
I think that's a precedent that has to be made. Like, obviously, there's a lot of dads that walk out when things happen. And I think the biggest thing for you guys was you made it work. You guys were very mutual. And I that's the one thing, if I could tell any parents or anyone, like, divorce happens, and so obviously relationships aren't meant to be sometimes, and that's okay. Yeah. That's really okay, but at what point are you going to make it about yourself rather than your child? Because, your relationship may not work, but it's not about you when you have a kid anymore. Yeah. Obviously, you got to take care of yourself, but, like, it's not about you anymore. And I think parents need to understand that if they're going to get divorced, they need to understand, like, their kids come first, and they got to do whatever it takes to make things work, because you can't. Obviously, like, I didn't have that happen, but I couldn't imagine a life where you and Dad never talked, and you couldn't stand to be around each other, because that would have made things a lot harder, like at baseball games and football games and stuff. Like, it would have just made things so much more difficult, and it would have made relationships with both you and him toxic, because if you're saying stuff about Dad or Dad's saying stuff about you, well, then what do I think? I'm a 10-year-old kid who doesn't know what to believe. And so I think the one thing that parents need to understand is, like, make it the easiest you can for your kids. I don't care how much you hate the other person. Make it easy. Yeah. And so that's like the one thing I wish I want everyone to.
And I would agree with that. There are certain situations that you can't do that.
Yes, 100%.
There's abuse or there's some major things.
I think when that happens, like, obviously if there's domestic violence involved, one of them's losing custody. Yeah, probably. And so that's completely different. Yeah. But if it's just something where you guys just didn't work out, you're fighting all the time because it is just not meant to be, but there's nothing else there. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, as a parent, you need to understand, like, it's not about you anymore. Make it about your kids. Make it the easiest you can for them. Be able to adjust to things. Be able to, if something doesn't go your way, you're okay with it, and you just make up for it. Yeah. And so I think that was the biggest thing that you and Dad were very good about. Obviously, things would happen, and I've had times where Dad maybe have complained about something on your side, and you've complained about something on Dad's side, and it's just life. Yeah. And so it's not anything like toxic. It's not anything weird. Yeah. And so it's very cool that you guys were able to do that for me, and I think that helped me a lot growing into the person I am today.
I also feel like the parenting plan we chose was huge, because you have good friends that we know their parents did a different parenting plan. Yeah. And watching them struggle going every other day to a different house or every 2 days to a different house, we chose 1 week on, 1 week off. Yeah. And I think that benefited you because you were able to settle in for a week instead of bouncing literally.
Yeah, and it helped. I think that it really helped build the relationship up better. And, like, I'm not going to name names, but I think you know who I'm talking about when I say Mom's relationship is really good. Obviously, things have happened, but it's a part of being a parent. But him and his dad's relationship are not maybe the greatest. Right. Because of that, because he's going 2 days on, 2 days off every other weekend. Right. And so he has to, like, carry things with him all the time. And, like, I bounce clothes house to house, and obviously you, like, make sure stuff comes back. And so I take things to different houses because I want to wear them, but I don't want to have to pack a bag every 2 days. So that definitely helped, because I had a closet of clothes at each house, because I know it's going to be there. But if I wanted to take something, I could take it. And so it helped because not only am I there for a week, so I'm able to settle in, like you were saying, I can actually get good sleep, I can hang out, I can actually have time with that parent. It helped me from always being on the move and just being tired all the time because I'm having to bounce and not really being comfortable where I'm at. And so it's definitely, you guys did a really good job on that, the 50-50 thing.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of parents go into that parenting plan and they're just so mad at the other side that it's really I'm going to hurt the other person. So they do a plan differently out of spite versus... And
I know like some parents maybe have separation anxiety from their kids. And
it was hard at first.
Oh, 100%, yeah. But you, like as a parent, you gotta kind of be okay with being uncomfortable and it hurt sucking. I mean, when you're getting divorced, that sucks. Yeah. Like life is gonna be hard. But I think you gotta do what's right for the kid, and if what's best for the kid is you getting a week, 2 weeks, a month, and that's what's best for the kid. Because it's about what is best for them, not what is best for you. Because if you make it about your life, what is that kid gonna... Like, that kid's not going to know what to do when he's growing up, and he's not going to know different things. He's never going to stick up for himself in ways. Mm-hmm. And so I remember Dad telling me when I'm going on 13, man, you're 13 now, like, it's your time. You can start forming opinions. You can start telling your mom things maybe that you used to not be able to. You can tell me things that maybe not you used to be able to, like, it is your time to start putting your voice in places. He's like, obviously, you're young enough now, like, maybe not, because decisions aren't going to go your way, but having that opinion is what I think is going to be best for you. Mm-hmm. And I think when he told me that, I started, like, I just was like, okay, sat down with myself in a way, just kind of while I was hanging out in my room, like, okay, and I know, like, now I'm getting old enough where if I don't like something, I can say something about it. Mm-hmm. And from there, like, anytime something happens and I don't like it, like, I don't let it go unseen now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to say something to you in certain situations, or something's going on. I'm like, hey, you look. Or I'm not scared to do that with Dad either. Like, I think that helps because it matured me a little bit more and helped me get to a point now as I'm growing up. I can't be really afraid to do that with anyone, because when you are afraid, you don't really get anywhere. And so I think that life lesson right there from him helped me mature, going in between two different households that are completely different. Because now maybe something at Dad's I don't like, because I've been doing something at your house, I can say something to him, or maybe vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so that helps a lot. Yeah. And
I will say, though, you're still having to learn that your opinion is not the only opinion.
Yes. Yes. And I do have times where I think my opinion is the best opinion. Yes. Because it is, Mom.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but...
What about, so your dad and I parent fairly similar. We don't talk to you the same, but we parent fairly similar. Do you think that was helpful for you because it wasn't just a swinging hammer every time?
Yeah, and it obviously when I was younger, Dad spanked me. So
I did too.
Yeah. It got to a point where I hated it, so that the thought of getting spanked just scared the life in me. Mm-hmm. And so that helped early on, but then it got to an age where I didn't care. I didn't care about getting spanked, and I was at the point where I was old enough to just talk to me. And I think you were the first one, because I was scared to death to do anything at Dad's. So I never really got in trouble there, talked too much there. Mm-hmm. But at your house, like, I was a little more open with friends at the street, because Dad's, I couldn't really go. He didn't want me going off to other places until I was a little older. But I mean, I had neighbors right across the street at your house, so it was really easy. Right. And I would do things, and you would just sit me down and talk to me about it. And I definitely think that helped a lot. And then when things happened at Dad's, like, I remember I had a couple incidents, honestly, just like a year ago at Dad's. I mean, I hit a kind of a dark spot in my life. It's a ridiculous dark spot. I hate it, but it happened. It's a learning curve there. But I mean, I did something I really shouldn't have, and he just sat me down and talked to me about it. and I got emotional because I hadn't really ever had a conversation like that with my dad, but it was nice to see that he was right there with me, and he was supported through it, and so it was super nice. And I think the fact that you guys were able to just do that was just a lot more helpful than being worried that I'm going to get spanked all the time, or that it's just I'm going to get grounded.
Yeah.
So I didn't get grounded growing up. I did a little bit, but you just talked to me and maybe you took something away for a few days, like, oh, okay. But you didn't let me not go to places and do things, and so it was very helpful. And so Paige coming in was a different learning curve because parents different.
Right.
And her and dad are pretty similar parenting now. They're on the kind of the same page. Now they've been together for a while.
Right.
But if I didn't clean my room or something, she would go take my power cords to my TV, my Xbox. And Dad would never do that. Yeah. So I was like, what is going on? And I would go find him and I would take him back, or I would just like throw a hissy fit about it. And so it was different because she brought in new things that I wasn't used to. And so that made it a little harder at first. Yeah. She wasn't new, but her disciplining me was new because it was just Dad disciplining me for how long. And even while they were together for a while, she felt like she was in a position to discipline me. Right. And man, I said some terrible things to her because I was an immature little kid, and I was like, I want my dad. And I remember her being around, and I looked at Dad and said, I wish you and Mom were still together. And I know, so I said things that have hurt her, but it because it was just Dad and I, so it was just weird. Yeah. And because of that, I think, because she was new, and this disciplining that I didn't like brought out things in me that weren't true, but were said because I wanted her to feel that way. And obviously now Paige and I have a good relationship. Yeah. She's a great stepmom to me. Like, she wants what's best for me. Like, I'm her own child, but she knows not to step boundaries. Obviously, like, you are my mom. Yeah. And she knows that. And she's not going out of her way to try to take that position, which I really like. And she knows that she can't do that. So I really enjoy that, especially now that Riker's here. Yeah. And she has her own kid to kind of really take care of, but she still makes time for me. Yep. And I don't need as much time, especially now that I'm in Joplin for college. Right. But she still acknowledges me, and that was a really big thing growing up for me. Is especially when I found out she was pregnant, like, I'm gonna be forgotten. Yeah. And so it is very nice, like, and I really do enjoy that.
I think it's hard. It's hard to be a step parent because you do have the reaction from the kids of, I don't like you, you're taking the place of and you are, as the mom on that side. I had a moment about it, and I'm not sure your dad hasn't had any feelings now that Marty has come in to this side. I think that is a hard mix altogether. You just gotta learn to get over yourself.
Yeah, and it was the situation with obviously Marty and his kids is a lot different than Paige and me, because I was so I've been around Paige. Right. I've been around Paige 19 years. Right. But I've been around Paige like that for 9 going on 10 years now. Right. Whereas if you've only been around his kids for 2. Right. And so it's that learning curve is definitely a lot different because they had happened at such a weird age. Right. They're old enough that they understand, but at the same time it still really affects them. Right. In a way, because it's new. Absolutely. And so it's a time thing. Yes. And so that is definitely, and I wish I could see that perspective of things just so I understood. Yeah. Because I obviously, I will never, unless I become a step parent, I will never really understand that position. But it was just hard sometimes. Obviously, I would say or do things with Paige, and I didn't know it hurt her like it did, and then Dad would be like, "Hey, man, that hurt Paige," and I would feel terrible because I'm like, well, I want her to feel like that, but at the same time, she's a big part of my life, and I just made her feel like that. Yep. And so it's definitely been weird. And I know when Paige was pregnant, it was really bad. Yeah. I mean, I was not okay. I wasn't in a dark spot, but I was not in a great place. I didn't talk to her. She would take me to school, and I would put my earbuds in and would talk to her.
Yeah.
And I know that killed her. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But I was so aggravated and so hurt and so worried and it wasn't necessarily about Paige. I was worried about Dad because I didn't want to lose Dad.
Yeah. And
so it was a definite learning curve in my life. And I mean, I was 16, 17 at the time. So I was still mature, but I wasn't that mature yet. And it hurt. And so.
You had a lot of things happen, though, about that same time. You kind of had 2 years of some stuff. So it probably was a blend of a lot of things, really.
I'm sure there was underlying stuff, but I think that was the start of it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because they didn't tell me, I found out on my own. Mm-hmm. They set something up for me to find out, but I didn't want to find out like that.
Yeah, right.
And I remember walking in the house and...
I got that phone call, too.
Walking in the kitchen and looking over, and there's a shadow box type deal that says May 2020 or something, or not May 2018 or whatever it is. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'm like, what's in the kitchen?
Yeah. I got that phone call too.
Yeah.
We've had a few.
After that, man, I kind of lost it. And
yeah.
Things died down. I got over it for a while. Yeah. It took a while, but I got over it. And then before Paige was pregnant, or not pregnant, about to give birth, it hit again. Mm-hmm. And I was so aggravated by it. I remember I was at your house, but I was with Eli at the time, and I said, "Hey, can you stop by my dad's? I need to talk to him." Yeah. And I've been getting into it with him, and so I was like, "I gotta go say something to him." And I got there, and him and I kind of went at it for a minute, and he told me not to show up to the hospital. And after that, I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And that was definitely. I right after that happened, I told Eli just to leave me, and I called my now ex-girlfriend Taylor, and went to her house, and I cried like in her arms for like an hour.
Yeah.
And so that was probably one of the worst moments of my life. Mm-hmm. Not because obviously I knew Dad wasn't going to leave,
right? But
being told that from someone who has that figure in your life, that was one of the worst things that had happened. And it, like, I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. I went from obviously him and I only to now him, me, and Paige and another.
Right.
And I, just like the whole Paige thing, I was now not over. I was still worried about this. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't just another obstacle there that really affected me. And little do I know now, Riker is highlight of my day sometimes. Like, I love him to death.
Right.
But it was just such a learning curve for me.
Well, I mean, you were alone for 16 years. You didn't have a sibling. You didn't have to
and like
share time.
And so I remember I definitely spent a lot more time over here after that, in which, because I didn't want to be around it.
Right.
This was my safe haven.
Right.
You and I got super, super close.
Yep.
And like it was nice having another place to go to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it kind of affected me a little bit, knowing like, well, it's not Mom.
Yeah.
And so it has its ups and downs, but.
Do you feel like people that are going through a divorce situation, that are maybe in middle school, high school, higher, whatever, should find someone to talk to, seek counseling, a person they trust, whatever?
Yeah, I don't necessarily they need to go. I don't think they need a good pay for counseling, because I don't want to do that either about anything. And it helps, like, from what, like, obviously you've been to counseling, you said it helps, but I think what helps me the most, and I think what truly would help them the most, is finding someone who's willing to listen and that they trust. Mm-hmm. If they need to talk. And I mean, it's not hard to find people out there. And if you don't want to talk because people may not understand what you're going through, just find someone who's going to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to get it out. And like, I've had moments like that where I just had to get it out. And when I got it out, I felt so much better.
Right.
And I do that about things sometimes. I just find someone who I trust and that is easy to talk to, and I just let it out. I complain, I do whatever for a couple minutes, and I'm over it. And obviously, this is a lot bigger of a situation.
Right.
But if you can find that person, if you can find those friends who are really that kind of people and you know are there for you, talk to them. And obviously, if they do something that you don't like, you know they're not a real friend at that point. But just knowing, like, you have that person to talk to, I think ultimately is going to help, because if something happens, they're your safe haven, they're your bubble that you can go in and feel safe and feel good and not have to worry about a lot of things, rather than relying on like drugs and alcohol to take that edge off to feel something. And so I definitely think finding, maybe not spending money on someone, but just finding that someone or something is definitely more beneficial than just bottling it up.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned you suck at change. Yeah. You still kind of suck at change.
I'm a lot better now.
I agree.
And
I totally agree.
I think now I'm just at the age, I just understand it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I have to be okay with it. If I don't like it, I don't like it, but it's going to happen. Right. I just have to deal with it. Right. But I do know I'm bad at it. I mean, I moved to Joplin, which I enjoy. I love now. It's awesome. I have a great time with new friends and all that. But I remember having 2 weeks where I couldn't come home because of this COVID stuff. And I was just super homesick. And I was fine. But man, I just really want to get back. I wanted to see Riker. I wanted to see Paige and Dad. I wanted to see you. Like, I want to see Nana and Papa. I wanted to see my friends, but all my friends were gone too. So it was like, it was just, I missed having everyone around, because like your house was the hangout house for all my friends. And so I think I missed having all those people over, and I missed being able to go see Dad when I wanted and you when I wanted to. And so I definitely had a couple weeks there where the change of moving was just super hard. Yeah. Right.
So what advice would you give parents or kids that are either growing up in the divorced household or they're going through it right now?
I kind of gave the advice to parents earlier, making it easiest for their kids. I mean, and I think for parents, if you have an issue, don't be afraid to speak on it. Yeah. Because I think that communication will make it easier in the long run. Because as your kids get older, obviously, like, it gets harder. Yes. Obviously, like, when a kid is the youngest, it's the hardest then, because they need so much attention. But I guarantee now I'm a lot harder to deal with sometimes than I was 5 years ago, because interests have changed. I'm more independent. I need more things, but less at the same time. Right. So being able to talk through things and being able to communicate still, I think, is a big thing for parents that they need to really focus on, even if they don't like the other person. And it obviously don't communicate like you're married. Like that. But I mean, if something comes up, don't be afraid to speak on it, because I think having that communication still is a really good thing. Yeah. And for kids and teenagers and stuff, I just think, like, find something that is you can just take, not necessarily your anger out on, but that will kind of ease your mind. I think mine was sports, 100%. Yes. Yeah. I was always in the sports, so I was always doing something. Really, baseball took over super hard, and I think that was a big thing for me. Obviously, I was kind of a hothead growing up, and I think part of it was because you guys were divorced, and then I got better about it, but baseball is still a little bit better. And so it's just about the growth through it, but there's not a single thing in baseball I wouldn't take back, because there's memories I've made with friends, and I've made friends from baseball, and like, obviously I wouldn't be where I'm at now without it. Right. So I definitely think find something, that video games, just reading, like just something that you can sit down and do and is just a constant in your life. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing for them, is just finding that constant. Yeah.
I feel like through our process, we've learned a lot about relationships, about parenting, about communicate. We've gone through a lot. Yeah. As a family, as individuals, and in my world, I always made sure you were aware of what was happening around us. And I felt like I needed to, so that you weren't blindsided when something would happen.
Yeah. And you and dad did a good job about that. Dad did, I didn't have as much going on with dad, but when things were going on like Paige and stuff, he was very open about it. Yeah. So that was good. Yeah. And you have always been very open about that stuff too, because it's definitely, like you say, it's easiest to not get blindsided. Right. Because as soon as, like, especially if going through something like this, if your kid, if a kid gets blindsided, like, who knows what's going to happen. Right. And so I do think that was a really good thing that you guys did. Yeah. And I would encourage all parents out there, really, if you can't communicate with your ex-spouse, at least tell your kids what's going on. Not about the things with your spouse, the bad things, but here's what's happening. You know, right now we can't afford this and this is why, or right now we're going through this and this is why, you know, being able to let the kid know. And I think that's just happening. A general parenting, even if you're not divorced. Yeah. Like, don't hide. Yeah. Like, at all. I don't know what, like, I would hate to be where I'm at now, but then find out there's things in the past or whatever that were, obviously things are hidden from kids, but I wouldn't want something big to be hidden from me. Right. And obviously, like, at first you didn't tell me about Marty, but because you didn't feel comfortable first, and I came in the first time he was at the house, and he kind of had it. He's like, oh my gosh, but you were always open to tell me, hey, I'm doing this with someone, or hey, I'm going on a date, just or hey, I'm starting to talk to this. I would like you to meet him. And I think that was a very easy transition for me, because I was like, okay, you know, my mom's happy. That's all that I care about. But it made it easier for me to just go in and be very open. Like, hey, I'm Ethan. Like, it just made the introduction a lot easier. So rather than me being all tense and kind of a fuse, it eased me down to where I was very chill about it. And I was just kind of easygoing. Yeah. Well, and I feel like communication opened up discussions for other things, not just divorce things, but things that are happening with you, or mom, this friend had this happen and I don't know how to help the friend or handle it. I remember this house becoming the one where your mom didn't hold back when your friends were saying something that was wrong. I just would tell them, and usually it revolved around something that they had heard from someone else, and I'm like, that's not. And so as parents in general, we need to not, I guess, obviously there's boundaries, especially if it's not your kind of kid. There has to be. There has to be. Like, a kid is having issues telling their parents about something, when you hear about it, I think it's okay to put a helping hand out there, especially if they're over a lot and they trust you. Yep. Or if something happens and you just gotta be like, hey, like, come on, you're better than that. But I do think there's still boundaries with that, because you can't parent them. Nope. But you can always give them advice. You can always parent them, if that makes sense. Like, so. And we had a few of those. Yeah, obviously. I've had those with other parents. Anything else you want to say to close anything out? I know. I mean, it's pretty well all. Okay. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm glad everybody is getting to meet my favorite son, my only son, here. And if you enjoyed, we just ask again that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's just the button right below this video. That way you get notifications on anything we have coming up. We have some amazing content coming up. We have a whole line of stuff, some great connections we've made. So we want everybody to join us on this journey and just continue to find hope and inspiration. Also, give us feedback. If you have something you want to let us know, or some topic you want us to talk about, or you have a story to tell, reach out to us. There are several ways to do that. You can message us directly on any of our pages. You can comment on this video, or you can send us an email at support@changingtheperspective.com. We would love to just talk with you. So everybody, I hope you had a wonderful week, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. We'll talk to you later. Bye.